Our story begins at Paxi High School. It is a school attended only by vampires. This school has absolutely everything a student needs: a large sports field, modern classrooms, and professional teachers. At first glance, this is a school no different from the ordinary school that the most ordinary children go to. Except this school isn't supposed to be human at all. It's only for those who couldn't find a place in normal human schools. But it looks like a normal human school. We see a school classroom with many children in it. One of the students asks, "Hey, what are we having for lunch?" The other student answers him, "I think it's pig's blood." The children in the class were unhappy that they were being fed pig's blood again, because in fact they wanted to drink human blood, but they never give it to them and feed them something else. But recently, a man got into the vampire school, and right after he started studying there, he started getting into trouble and causing a lot of inconvenience to the surrounding students. We see the boy running quickly down the hallway. Suddenly, a girl opened the door to the classroom where the children were sitting and shouted that there was a fight in the corridor. Everyone was surprised by this, because there were rarely any fights or incidents at school. So all the students went to see what was going on in the hallway. There was indeed a fight in the hallway. The boy with red hair was very angry with the other student. There was a conflict between them. While one of the boys was running to class down the hallway, the student with red hair was much taller and stronger than the other boy. One boy asked the other, "Shouldn't you apologize and make up for spoiling other people's lunch?" We see spilled blood on the floor, which was packed in a special bag for easy drinking. Obviously, it was the lunch of one of the vampire students, but the boy had somehow spoiled it. The second weaker student replied, "But I didn't do anything." He doesn't understand why the boy is so angry with him, because according to the second student, he was not at all to blame for what happened. The red-haired bully got even more angry after the other boy's excuses. "So you're saying it's all my fault?" The red-haired student didn't admit his guilt, and persistently tries to convince the other boy that it was his fault for spilling his lunch. But the other student tries to say that it was because the other boy was running down the hallway, and it was his own fault for spilling his food. A lot of people had already gathered around the two fighting boys. Students from all over the school came to see what was going on in the hallway, and why everyone was so excited. Many students wished that the fight would start, and the red-haired boy would beat the other one. Some students were betting on winners and losers. Many of them were shouting hurtful words to make the fight start as soon as possible. Apparently, the red-haired boy was the local bully, and he often got into little scuffles with the weaker students, so he didn't miss the opportunity to show his strength on another student. So he swung at the boy with the words, "You scum! Let's see what blood tastes like today." Because the weak boy wasn't really any different from the others, and the bully decided it would be fun to taste his blood today, not the blood they usually get in bags. But suddenly, behind the boy's back, came a phrase, "Get out of the way!" The red-haired boy didn't understand who dared to stop him, so he asked loudly without looking back, "Ah, what kind of idiot said that?" The boy couldn't believe that someone dared to try to stop him, but it seemed that behind his back stood someone who was quite capable of doing so. Behind the boy's back stood a gorgeous girl. She had blonde hair, she was dressed in a school uniform and looked at what was happening with a stern look. She sternly said, "Now get lost and get out of here." People were shocked. It was as if they were crazy when they saw this girl. It was the vampire queen Han Ye-sul. All the boys were crazy about her. So as soon as they saw her, they were speechless and looked only at her. As the queen walked past the crowd of students, various phrases were heard from students everywhere. She didn't even lift a finger to break them up. I heard that she managed to defeat the exorcists by a ratio of 666 to 1. She's a different level of vampire compared to us. The students were obviously surprised to see her, for there were many rumors and legends about this queen. The students knew that she was not like the rest of the vampires. She was a pure-blood vampire with white hair and red eyes. This was very rare among the vampire population, so even visually she commanded respect and fear from others. On the queen's way, a girl met her. She, like everyone else, was admiring the beauty of the woman, and muttered embarrassed, "It seems you didn't get your blood packet." The little girl noticed that the woman had not taken her blood packet for lunch, so the student decided to offer the queen her own. The student said in embarrassment, "If you don't mind, please take my blood bag." With these words, the girl held out the bag of red liquid, hoping that the queen would accept her gift and thank her. But the woman was clearly not happy with such a gift. She hit the girl's hands and the bag fell out of her hands. The girl cried out in fright, but had no time to do anything as the bag with blood was already lying on the floor. The queen did not accept the gift from the student. The queen looked at the little apprentice with contempt and said to her, Do you think I will drink fake blood? The queen was indignant at the insolence of the student, because how could she dare to offer her the same food that all the students eat? The queen thought that there should be a separate blood for her, but no one knew what she eats. Please forgive me. The girl immediately started apologizing to the queen. Although she had not done anything wrong, but everyone in the school was admiring and in love with this woman, so the girl immediately began to apologize and say that she was wrong, as she was very sorry about it. All the students around them were also gawking at the woman and admiring her. As soon as the queen left the corridor, everyone began to discuss her again, and from all sides various remarks and phrases were heard against this woman. Someone asked, "I heard that she hunts people. Is that true? Isn't it illegal to drink human blood? Don't exorcists allow such things?" The people around really didn't know what the queen was eating, because she never took the kind of food that normal students take, so everyone was trying to figure out what kind of blood she was drinking. The personality of this queen was very mysterious, and mysterious. Around her went many legends. Many dreamed to learn even a small detail of her life. That's why she is called the Queen of Vampires. The action then moves to a school toilet, where in one of the cubicles there was clearly someone talking to himself. This someone was clearly dissatisfied with something and indignant at what was happening. In the restroom was the same woman who had broken up the fight in the hallway a few minutes ago. The girl was clearly not happy about something she was saying, but why? Why the vampire queen? The girl couldn't understand why everyone was treating her like that, because apparently she didn't like it at all, and especially she didn't like the way the students called her, because she didn't consider herself a vampire queen at all. The girl was tearfully indignant. What nonsense! In Korea, the president is the ruler. Then why am I the queen? And why are they afraid of me? You guys are 100 times scarier than me, a normal person. The girl wasn't going to cry, but she just couldn't take it anymore. The girl doesn't like the fact that everyone treats her like some special person, and didn't like the fact that many people notice some peculiarities of her appearance and call her queen. After a few minutes, the girl calmed down and sat quietly on one of the toilets, thinking about what had happened. In fact, every day she talks to herself in the toilet. It helps her to calm down and talk out. After all, at school she can find a common language with few people, because in fact, the girl is really different from the rest, but most people do not even realize it. As you may have already guessed, the girl is the only person who attends this high school. She really is different. But this school is only for vampires and humans are not allowed here. But how did a human get into this school? A few days before enrollment, the girl talked on the phone with the distribution center, where she was supposed to answer about enrollment in the school. But it turned out that they mixed up the letter and assigned the girl to the School of Vampires. She could not believe it. She tried to find out how this could happen and why she was enrolled in a school where there were absolutely no humans. On the phone, the girls answered that there was a small mistake when applying. It turns out that they mixed up a letter when filling out the application form for admission to the school. It turns out the vampire school and the school where the girl wanted to go differs only by one letter at the beginning, and people made a mistake when filling out the application form without paying attention to this letter. Now the girl has to study at the school with vampires. The girl was indignant and tried to find out if she could somehow change her application and enroll in another school. But she was told that this could be done only after a year of study. She should study a year in the school where she had already enrolled and only then apply for admission to another school. The girl could not hide her grief. She went out of her room and tried to find her parents to tell them this terrible news. Only opening the door, the girl shouted, "Mom, I have a problem. I need your help." But coming out of her room and into the living room, the girl did not see any of the family members in the apartment. She was asking questions. Where is everyone? Where did everyone go? The girl was already very disappointed, and the fact that she couldn't find any of the family in the apartment made her even more angry. While going around the apartment, the girl noticed that it was unusual on the table in the living room. It was a note that would probably tell the girl where her parents went. The first time the girl did not see this small piece of paper, but now she came closer and decided to read what was written on it. The note read, "To our sweet daughter. You are now a full-fledged high school student, aren't you? Meanwhile, Daddy and I decided to take a trip to Hawaii for a few days to relieve the stress of parenting. Congratulations on getting into high school and don't look for us for a while. Adios." The girl was furious, just because they just wanted to travel. What's the stress of raising children? A little bit could not understand how her parents could leave her alone at such a difficult time in her life, but there was nothing to do. They had already gone on vacation and the girl was left alone, nothing to be fixed. But the girl was really upset. She cried and said, "Nightmare. Mom, Dad, and the school's distribution company, they all seem to have nailed me. Besides, there's already an admissions ceremony tomorrow anyway, so there's nothing I can do." The girl realized that no one could help her, because tomorrow was the first day of school, and she could not fix anything and enter another institution, and would have to adapt to what life had prepared her for. The girl realized that among vampires she would look too distinguished, and it would be immediately clear that she was a human. The girl did not want to attract attention to herself, and immediately let all the students know that she was not like everyone else. The girl didn't want others to know that she was a human, so she decided to dye her hair and make her eyes red in order to be as similar as possible to the vampires around her. But having made herself white hair and red eyes, the girl could not even think that she would stand out even more among others, because it turns out that her idea of vampires were wrong, and such vampires with white hair and red eyes were actually very few. It was a sign of a pure-blooded vampire, which remained only a little bit, and there were practically no such vampires in the school. As soon as the girl came to the school, everyone around started whispering and talking about her. No one could believe that a pure-blooded vampire had entered the school. The girl was determined that she would transfer to another school in a year. After that, those horrible toilet lunches and vampire disguises would be over. Unfortunately, she couldn't change schools. She had to spend a year in the school where she was enrolled, so she put up with it, hoping that in exactly 1 year everything would be over and she would be studying among the humans. But suddenly the girl heard someone's voice behind her, a man's voice that asked, "So the pure-blooded vampire everyone is talking about is actually human?" The girl didn't expect to see someone else in the toilet. Usually she is alone in the toilet and talks out all her problems to make her feel better. But this time she wasn't alone, and in the next stall there was a boy who heard everything she was talking about, and he found out her secret too. The girl was puzzled. She did not expect that she was not alone in the toilet, because she had just told all her story and told all her secrets, and the boy now knows everything. He can tell everyone that she is not vampires, and then the girl's life will be ruined forever in this school. The girl looked up in surprise and said, "You are wrong," but it was too late. The boy had heard everything the girl was telling, and now he knew every detail of her lies. The girl stood in front of the boy who was sitting quietly on one of the toilets and listened to everything she was going to tell him. He realized that now he knew her deepest secrets. The boy asked the girl how she got to this school. The girl told him that she had just applied to an ordinary school for humans, but that the application was sent incorrectly. In the application was mistaken, and accidentally sent her to a school for vampires, and the girl herself has nothing to do with it, and would love to go to a school for humans, but she cannot do anything about it. The boy asked how then the girl defeated 666 psychics alone, since there were many rumors about it at school. She replied that she had just been interrogated by an exorcist. The girl talked about dropping out of sports and just entering high school. She didn't even get to enjoy the high school life she dreamed of. The girl thought that she didn't deserve such an exodus in this school. After all, she had struggled for so long to survive here and be accepted among the people around her. But as it happened, the girl decided that she had to use the main method, the oldest method, built on the instinct of self-preservation. The girl didn't know how to convince the boy to keep quiet about her secrets, and not to tell anyone that she wasn't really a vampire and had no right to be in this school. The girl's life would be over. The girl suddenly fell on her knees in desperation and began to beg the boy not to tell anyone about her secrets. The girl did not know what ways to persuade the boy, so she decided to use the most, in her opinion, effective. She decided on her knees to beg him, because she hoped that he would keep her secrets. The girl said, "Dear vampire, I'll do anything you say, but please don't tell anyone." The girl remembered that her mother told her never to kneel before anyone. But she didn't know how she could beg the boy not to tell anyone about her secrets. She didn't know how to communicate with vampires, as she usually didn't talk to anyone within the school, so she decided to go to extreme measures and beg him in this way. The boy liked the girl's words very much. He asked her again, "What? Will you do everything?" The boy heard something in the girl's words that interested him. He did not expect to hear the girl's willingness to do absolutely anything for him to keep her secret. So the boy looks at her in surprise and can't believe his ears. The boy suddenly got up from the toilet and walked up to the girl. He took his hand on her chin and said, "Great, I just needed someone like you." The boy was obviously happy with the way the story ended, because when he wanted to go to the toilet, he didn't even expect to hear the whole story from the girl. and then the pleas that he should not tell anyone, and the willingness to fulfill his every wish. The girl listened attentively to the boy and thought, "Damn, he's been plotting this from the beginning." She went on to say, "I don't know how someone like me can help you." The girl really didn't expect the boy to agree to her proposal and to be interested in doing anything for him, but now she wondered what he was up to and what she would have to do to keep his secret. The boy calmly answered the girl, "Don't worry, you'll come in handy. In any case, you have no choice." The boy understood that the girl was in a desperate situation. If he told everyone around her secret, she would not be able to live in this school for more than a day. She had no chance to transfer to another school within a year, so she was in full power of the boy, and he realized that she was ready to do any of his assignments. But suddenly the girl began to make strange noises. First she coughed and then began to choke. The boy was shocked by this behavior, so he asked, "What's wrong with you?" The boy did not understand what was happening, and it seemed to him that the girl began to die before his eyes, but it was not true. Through a cough and in a barely audible voice, the girl said, "I have a chronic illness. Could you please escort me to the medical center?" The boy stood up and said, "Do you think I'll agree? I'm not falling for this deception, so stop pretending." The boy obviously did not believe the girl. He thought that she was trying to deceive him, because she was in a desperate situation and was trying to think of something to get out of the room, but the boy did not believe her. But after these words of the boy, the girl's face began to hurt and she began to lose consciousness. Her body also began to take on a white color, so the boy no longer seemed that she was making it up. He really begins to believe that the girl became ill, and she may now die before his eyes. The boy helped the girl up off the floor and said, "Damn, are all people so weak?" The boy decided to take the girl to the medical center. He told her to try to straighten up and walk straight. The boy decides to help her, as he now fully believes that she is not feeling well and needs medical help. But suddenly the girl stopped and said that she had another request for the boy. The boy did not understand and stopped too. He asked the girl what else she needed, because just a few minutes ago she was dying right in front of him and asked for medical help. But now she stops herself. The girl abruptly pulled her phone out of her pocket and turned on the flashlight. She shouted, "Ah, blind, you asshole!" She knew that vampires are very susceptible to light, and the bright light from the phone's flashlight could blind them for a while, and they would be paralyzed for a few minutes. So the girl decided to take advantage of this stratagem. After that, the girl ran out of the toilet and away from the place. Behind her back, the boy shouted, "Hey, stop!" The boy was dumbfounded by this development. No one in the school had ever used light as a weapon before, because everyone around him was a vampire. The girl was glad that she had managed to escape from the boy. She was running down the corridor and thought that she had to find the teacher and ask for help. The girl had drops of sweat on her face. She was obviously very nervous for the last few minutes. The girl ran to the nearest office in the hope of seeing a teacher there. She shouted, "Teacher, help me social sign." But in the office at this time sat ordinary people who looked at her with surprise. They could not understand the reasons for such strange behavior of the girl and what she wants from them, because there was no teacher in the office. The students in the study at this time were eating, and did not expect such an abrupt appearance of the vampire queen. One of the guys said, "My God, aren't you from 3rd grade? What brings you here? Since you've come, won't you treat yourself to some blood?" The students were really surprised and didn't expect to see the girl here, but they still offered her to sit down next to them and eat lunch. But the girl wanted to find a teacher and did not expect to see only children in the office, so answered, "Since you are eating, then I will come later. Enjoy your meal." With these words, the girl closed the door and wished that these students would soon forget that she had come to see them at all. As soon as she closed the door, she said, "Right, this is a vampire school, and of course the teachers here are vampires." She'd originally wanted to find a human teacher, but she realized that the teachers here were vampires too, and they wouldn't be able to help her because they wouldn't be happy to know they had a human in the school either. After that, the girl calmly walked down the corridor thinking about everything that happened to her. She surrendered to the question, "And how do I go to school now?" And the girl realized that if all the students found out about her true origin, she wouldn't be able to live long in such an environment. Vampires would definitely use the moment to taste human blood, which is usually forbidden. The girl was sure that the boy would tell everyone that she was human. After all, he had no reason to keep her secret. If it spreads around the school, the girl couldn't even imagine what would happen after that news. The vampire queen decided that there was no way this was going to happen, and she shouldn't let everyone know the truth. She started to think about what she could do about it. But nothing came to her mind, so she decided to head to her study hall. Suddenly, the girl noticed that in front of her stands a schoolboy. He just stared at the queen and could not believe his eyes. The boy was very surprised to see live that girl who had so many legends at school. So he just stood with his mouth open and watched the girl trying to solve her problems. But the girl always hated company and hated to be looked at, so she asked the boy, "What are you looking at?" She was in a bad mood, because she couldn't figure out what to do next, and this boy just kept her thinking and distracted her. The boy was immediately frightened by this reaction, so he mumbled shamefully, "No, nothing." After that, the boy tried to get out of the girl's sight as quickly as possible, and not to distract her anymore. The boy ran into the nearest study room. The girl realized that right now, she needed to focus. After all, she was the queen of vampires now. This situation should not shake her mental health. The girl realized that nothing had changed yet, and she was still the vampire queen that everyone respected and was in awe of. The girl realized that she needed to last a year, just 1 year. The vampire queen walks into the classroom. There are many students already sitting there, waiting for the lesson to start. Many of them turn around to look at the girl. But this is usually the case because she is always very much admired by the students. As the girl walked through the classroom to her seat, she noticed that the students somehow became more talkative than usual. While she heard some phrases. "He still goes to school? I wouldn't go to school because of the shame." It was clear that the kids were discussing some boy. But the girl decided not to pay attention to it all. She realized that now the main thing was not to attract unnecessary attention, and not to think about nothing. She decided that she needed to relax and make a poker face, so as not to be different from her usual state at classes. But suddenly the girl noticed that she was not sitting at the desk alone. Next to her sat some other silhouette, which usually was never present at the lessons. But today something was clearly wrong, and this person was the reason for such lively conversations in the classroom. The girl couldn't believe that it was the same guy who had recently overheard her whole story in the bathroom. She had only recently rejoiced that she had been able to escape him, but now he was sitting right in front of her, and what's more, they were desk mates. The girl couldn't believe what had happened. She couldn't even imagine that she would have to sit next to a man who knows all her secrets and can tell the whole school that she is not really a vampire. She asks the boy, "What are you doing here?" The boy calmly replies, "Oh, so we're roommates." He didn't know because he didn't go to class. It was true, the boy never went to class and the girl usually sat alone. She had no roommates, but now everything has changed. Everyone in the class was also surprised by this coincidence. No one could believe that this boy could sit with the queen. The whole class was whispering, "Is Jung Gyul right? Is he going to sit with the queen now? Is this bully going to sit with the queen?" The girl still couldn't believe that this bully would sit with her at the same desk, because she had chosen this seat because no one had sat here since the beginning of the semester. She chose a seat away from the students' gaze. So on the first day of school, she chose an empty desk at the end of the classroom, but now it was no longer empty. But the boy was extremely calm. He did not pay attention to such strange behavior of the girl. Because he knew that she would be surprised to see him here, he quietly told her, "You later go with me somewhere." The girl realized that she had no choice. The boy will tell everyone about her secret if this time she runs away from him again. She has no choice but to obey him, and after the end of the lesson to go with him where he asked, because there he is going to talk to her about something. The girl has no idea what the boy can ask her. After the lesson, the boy and the girl withdrew to a deserted place. The boy says, "Did you really think I would demand blood?" The girl answered him, "Ha ha, you yourself said you wanted a human." In fact, the girl thought that the boy's desire would be to drink real human blood, because the vampires in this school had never tasted human blood, but most of them were very eager to do so. So the girl was very afraid for her life, and was afraid that the boy's desire would be exactly to taste her blood. But in fact, that was not the case at all, the boy said with resentment. "Are you kidding me? When did I ever ask for your blood?" The girl embarrassedly answered him, "Sorry." It turned out that the boy had never thought of tasting human blood. Especially he did not want to do the girl any harm, and he had no thoughts of ever tasting human blood. The boy asks the girl, "Do you think your apology is enough?" He really still remembered that the girl was willing to do absolutely anything for the boy not to tell her secret. The girl replies to him, "This time, I will do anything you ask. The girl really understood that she was in a desperate situation, and there was nothing left for her but to obey the boy's will and fulfill his request, because otherwise she would not live the whole year in this school. The girl still decided to ask what the boy wanted from her in the end, because she had never heard any request from him, so she wondered what he would want to get. The boy was finally satisfied that the girl had finally accepted the fact that she would have to fulfill his request. The boy calmly told the girl to follow him. They came to a corner and the boy said, "See that warehouse over there?" The boy pointed to a small building on the edge of the school grounds, that he needed to get the key that the principal had hidden in this warehouse. The girl surrendered to the question, for it looked like an ordinary warehouse. Couldn't the boy go there himself? Indeed, the building was very inconspicuous and quite ordinary. It looked like an ordinary storehouse for the school, and it was nothing complicated and dangerous at first glance. It did not seem to be. The boy was surprised at the girl's attitude because he had expected her to know much more about these places. He asked her, "Did you really go to a school I don't know anything about? This old guy used to kill vampires. The principal made it so it's not easy to get in. You think it's all for nothing? There's a lot of scary traps inside." Turns out the principal of this school kept a lot of secrets, and it seems all those secrets were contained in this warehouse. The boy further told that in this warehouse is a very strong barrier, and also this warehouse is guarded by a terrible ancient demon. And apparently, that's the warehouse the girl would have to somehow get into. The girl was very much indignant. She did not expect to have to go to some dangerous place. She was indignant at such insolence of the boy. After all, he risked her life for his own purposes. The girl says that she would never go to such a thing, and would not risk her life. The boy was calm and calmly said to the girl, "You don't think I'll let you run away this time, do you?" After these words, the girl really stood up that she has no choice. Apparently, she has to take a risk in her life in order to keep her reputation in this school and get a chance to finish this code without any problems. Of course she has to do it. Who is she to refuse in this situation? But the boy told the girl not to worry too much. He said that they were just going to get the key, and then they would go straight back. He tried to tell the girl that there was no serious danger waiting for her there, because they would not risk their lives and would just get the key. After these words, the boy took the iron from his pocket and started to open the lock. He had no key, but on the door of this warehouse hung a simple lock, which the boy could easily open using his powers. The girl was puzzled as she watched the boy pick the lock and asked him where he had learned it. The boy calmly replied that he had learned it in Hawaii. After a few minutes, the boy still managed to break the lock, and then he confidently opened the door to the warehouse. He realized that begins the most interesting. So he said to the girl, "Well, let's go." The girl noticed that inside the warehouse were old balls and boxes. Everything was in dust. It looked like no one had been using this warehouse for a very long time. But the boy answered her, so the girl wouldn't fall for the deception. Since this was an exorcist's warehouse, there would definitely be traps somewhere. The boy realized that things were not so simple in this place, and one should expect danger at any moment. Suddenly, the girl she stepped on something. She looked under her feet and saw that it was garlic. She couldn't understand what it was doing here, and why garlic was lying on the floor. After that, she looked up and saw that there was a huge pumpkin hanging from the ceiling. The pumpkin was tied and hanging right above the heads of the boys, who were passing exactly under it. The boy could not understand what the girl was talking about, and what kind of pumpkin and garlic she was talking about, because he did not notice anything. The girl tried to tell the boy to get out of here, but no sooner had she said this phrase than she tripped on some rope. Apparently it was a trigger for a trap, which started to act as soon as the girl's foot hit the rope. Then within a few seconds, everything around him started to move. The garlic started to act, and the boy accidentally kicked some garlic heads, and a pumpkin fell on his head. The boy couldn't understand what was happening, so he tried to cover his head with his hands, because he expected something else to fall on him in the near future. The girl was puzzled. She did not understand what was going on. Why garlic is lying on the floor? Is it some kind of a prank? She tried to think about everything that had just happened, and understand why all these strange objects are here among the forgotten school things covered with dust. But the smell of garlic was really very unpleasant. The girl knew that it smelled very strong, and it was unpleasant for her to be here. But apparently the boy was even more unpleasant to be here garlic, because he had not recovered from the blow of the pumpkin and from this smell, so he stood motionless behind the girl's back, without making the slightest sound. After a few seconds, the boy turned pale and leaned against the girl's shoulder. He couldn't make a sound, and it was as if he had suddenly fallen asleep. He couldn't utter a single word, and just leaned motionless against the girl, trying not to fall. The girl was very surprised by this, and could not understand what had happened to him. The girl couldn't realize what was going on. The boy was already very tight against her neck. He whispered, "Do me a favor." The girl was in shock from such a sudden development of events, so frightened, said, "Wait, let's talk after you go this." She did not understand why the boy so abruptly fell into a dream state and joined her neck, the girl thought. Is this time he really going to drink my blood? She decided a little that now the boy had decided to drink human blood as she feared. The girl shouted, "No, I'm not ready." But after that there was a sneeze. Someone sneezed very loudly, and after that a lot of dust rose all over the room. And finally the boy moved away from the girl. She didn't understand where he had gone and where he had disappeared to, because after the sneeze she had lost sight of the boy. The girl asked fearfully, "What happened?" She saw a small bat-like creature in front of her. It had blue eyes and a bright white body. The boy asked the girl loudly, "Take away this garlic, please." Then he sobbed. It was clear that garlic was very bad for vampires. A girl in a red suit and with strange green glasses asks the first question. And now, while the questions are still pending, we will start the quiz. When a vampire touches garlic, he becomes... The girl in the red suit asks the question she expects to hear the answer to. The other girls, also in red suits, take turns shouting out, "I'll answer it! Handsome! No! I'll get it! Hamburger! No! I'll take that! Hamster!" Oh, that answer was close, but it's still not. Then the girl in the red suit decided to reveal the correct answer, and that answer appeared on the screen. When a vampire touches garlic, he becomes a bat. Just as a human sneezes becomes like a monkey, a vampire. Similarly, a vampire sneezes because of garlic and ends up turning into a helpless bat. That's why the boy at the sight of garlic suddenly sneezed and turned into a bat when he and the girl were in the warehouse. However, vampires who have turned into a bat have to be really careful, because they are truly becoming cute. Because the bat they turn into is very much like a stuffed toy, and a very cute toy. The girl tried with her eyes to find the boy and what he had turned into, and how to try to talk to him and see if he could be turned back into a human being, and how long he would stay that way. The bat that the boy had turned into was sitting on the floor and trying to get the girl's attention. He resented that he was calling her, but she was not responding to his cries. The boy said that he still did not understand humans. Anyway, he realized that it was dangerous, because in this body he would not be able to find the key. But the boy did not even suspect that the most dangerous thing here is the girl, because as soon as she saw this cute creature, she could not keep herself in hand, and was ready to immediately squeeze it in her hands. She immediately began to say, "I want to touch, I want to touch, I want to touch." She pounced on the little bat to support it in her arms and stroke it. It turns out that the girl from childhood could not keep herself in control when it came to animals. At the sight of any cute dogs, she immediately rushed to hug and pet them, even if the dog was several times bigger than her. She didn't care, and couldn't resist cute animals. When she saw something cute, her lessons would start to shake, and she couldn't control herself and ended up approaching animals, even when she met ownerless animals on the street. So now she's trying to stay sober. The girl told herself, "Don't kid yourself. There is actually an evil vampire in that cute little bat." The girl tried to resist and not let her feelings overpower her. She wanted more than anything in the world to take her hands on this little fluffy thing and start stroking it. But the girl couldn't do anything with herself. She began to talk herself into it. "So what if it's a vampire? I can pet him just a little. But at least a little petting I can allow myself. What's the big deal? Just a little bit, I think that nothing bad will come out of it." After that, the girl once again looked at this cute little fluffy and decided that it would be okay if she stroked it just a little bit. As soon as the girl touched this little furry creature, she immediately shrieked with pleasure. "It's like microfiber! Hey, hey, hey! It's softer than my stray cats from the neighborhood." But the boy was very angry. He didn't expect the girl to be able to afford such a thing. He shouted as loud as he could, "What are you doing? Let me go! Don't do this! Let me go!" The boy tried his best to get out, but the girl was holding him so tightly that there was no chance of getting free. After a while, the boy was still able to somehow free himself from the girl's hands, and he shouted even louder than usual, "Don't touch me!" Then he fell out of the girl's arms and turned back into a human being. After that, the two students froze in a very strange pose. The girl was still holding her hands as if she still had that little furry and cute creature in her hands. She was holding her finger in the boy's mouth, as she had just done it with that bat. But he had already turned into a human, and so this situation looks very ridiculous. The place where vampires had fangs, but the girl could see the boy's tongue, and fangs that rested right on the girl's finger if the boy wanted to. I could safely bite her and drink her blood, but he wasn't going to do that. After that, the boy stood up embarrassed and said, "I told you not to touch me." The girl was still sitting there embarrassed and ashamed. She did not expect that she would not be able to hold herself in her hands and take the creature in her arms. Now she was very uncomfortable. They realized that it was caused by garlic, as the smell of garlic turns a vampire into a bat. So the girl took a dustpan and removed all the garlic away from that place so that no more of the smell would reach the boy, and so that he would not turn into that creature again. But the boy asks her in disbelief, "Are you sure you've put everything away?" The girl answers him a little insulted, "Yes, I'm sure I've put everything away." There was still tension between them, as the girl couldn't contain herself, and took the creature the boy had turned into in her arms. So they were still standing next to each other in embarrassment. "Boy, is there really traps and a demon around here somewhere? All they've seen so far are garlic pumpkins, and this doesn't exactly look like demon traps and deadly obstacles. It looks more like some kind of school joke. Maybe someone decided to play a prank on the students." The boy told the girl to turn around. Behind her there was a very scary cross with a skull and strange signs on it. He asked her if she still had doubts, when behind her there was this scary object. The girl was frightened when she saw it. She hadn't noticed this scary object yet, so she wondered why this horrible cross was there and how it got there. The boy told the girl that crosses are the Achilles heel of vampires. But for her, since she's human, it would be very simple. All she has to do is put her hand in the mouth of that skull on the cross. And after she does, the skull will ask her an ancient riddle that she must answer, and only then will the mystery room open. But the girl was frightened and asked what would happen if she didn't answer this ancient question. The boy said, "Two, maybe. This skull will just bite you forever." The girl was very much frightened by this. She thought that the boy was just joking. She did not understand how she would be able to answer the question of the skeleton, if he would ask some ancient riddle, the answer to which she does not know exactly. But at that moment the boy shows the girl a phone, and says that he can help her solve any riddle, because she can look up the answer on the internet. And do not worry. The girl did not think about it, and then decided that really the problem is not so serious. After a short thought, the girl still puts her hand in the mouth of the skull on the cross. She hopes for the best possible outcome, and that she will be able to get out of here alive, because it doesn't seem like a safe endeavor. After the girl placed her hand in his mouth, the skeleton spoke loudly. The legendary gatekeeper, Sophia, was back. The girl was very surprised at how loud, and suddenly the skeleton started to speak. She didn't expect it and was very much scared. The skeleton mouthed that the girl wouldn't be able to answer his question correctly anyway, and so they would be together with him eternally until she rotted away completely. What the skeleton was saying was that if the girl didn't answer his question, he wouldn't let go of her hand, and they would be doomed together here to stay. The skeleton started to ask a question. The question was, listen to the conversation between John and Anna, and tell me what their relationship is. It turns out that the question was to evaluate the dialogue between the two characters and understand their relationship. The girl did not expect this, because she was preparing for some mystery, which she will be able to solve with the help of the phone and the internet. But such a task the internet will not help to solve, and will have to think for themselves. The boy and the girl were surprised by this development of events because they expected some mystery. But now there is no choice, nothing can change, and the girl's hand is already in the mouth of this skeleton. They will have to answer his questions. They began to listen to the story. Anna begins the dialogue. "John, happy Thanksgiving. Last night's party was wonderful. Thank you for inviting me." John replies to her, "Anna, I have a confession to make to you. When I saw your eyes last night at the party, my heart fluttered. I think I like you." "Oh no, John, it's an illusion. You have a wife, and she's my only best friend." John replies to her that his heart leaps out of his chest every time he sees her. It can't be an illusion. Anna says, "Please, Jones, don't do this. I don't love you." John was not happy with that answer. He replies, "You don't love me? Then what was that hot kiss last night here? You're the only one who makes my heart beat like that. If it's not love, then what is it? Let's just drop everything and run away to heaven." But this mystery had one peculiarity. The skeleton read it in Korean. This language was not understood by the girl and the boy as they spoke in English, but this story was not in a language they understand well. The skeleton said that he told the whole story in riddle and told the boys to hurry up and answer his question. But the girl was indignant. Wait a minute. No one said the question would be in Korean. The boy and girl really didn't expect this. They were seriously tuning in to hear the question in the English they speak. But the skeleton said that he had already simplified the question as much as possible to fit the knowledge of the boys, and he did not have to simplify the already very simple questions. The skeleton expected an answer from the boys, who had no idea what to say to him. The skeleton was still holding the girl's hand in its mouth. What to do? The girl didn't understand how to solve this riddle, even though she had the highest score in Korean. But the boy said that he had never taken a Korean language class at all, so he didn't understand anything at all. So the girl was the only one left to hope for. The guys started discussing what they'd heard and what they each realized. For starters, I think they're in love. But didn't she say in the middle of the conversation that she didn't love the man? It was about someone's heart pounding. Maybe they're doctor and patient. You're a genius. The students tried to discuss what they had heard, but the problem was that they didn't quite get the gist of the story because it was in a different language. But each of the kids tried to make an assumption based on what they understood. The girls shouted that they had the answer. The answer is this. They have a doctor-patient relationship. The girl really didn't understand a lot of the story because she didn't understand Korean well. But they didn't have much of a chance, and had to try to draw conclusions from what they understood. The girl decided to use this version in the hope that it seemed correct. But suddenly the skull laughed. He said in a menacing voice, "Wrong! The answer is forbidden love! Congratulations! Now you'll stay with me forever! Ha ha ha!" It was expected that the guys would not be able to answer this question, because they were given very little time. Besides, the question was asked in another language, and there was no time to think at all. The girl was very upset. She was almost crying. The girl did not understand what to do now, and whether she would really stay here forever and be alone with this skeleton. The boy suggested that she try to stick her fingers out and run away. The girl desperately tried with all her might to yank her arm from the skeleton and try to free herself. It was very difficult, and the girl was in pain. The skeleton shouted, "But you can't get away from me!" But the girl tried very hard to yank her arm away. After a few seconds more and efforts, the girl tore off the skeleton from the cross, on which he was all this time, and she did not manage to get rid of him completely. But now she at least not locked with him alone in this warehouse. The girl raised her hand at the end of which was still this skull, which never let go of her hand and held it in his mouth. But after a few seconds, the whole area turned red and the alarms went off, with phrases going off all around. Attention! 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 Loss of part! The alarm siren sounded very loudly and there were red lights all around. The students could not understand why the alarm had sounded here, because it was an ordinary warehouse, where at first glance nothing strange was happening and where the alarm had come from. But apparently, the girl was the first one who decided to stretch out her arm and try to get rid of the skeleton. The girl shouted, "We will now fix the problem to restore safety." She was determined to finally get rid of that skull on her hand. She swung hard, hoping to hit it on the floor, and finally rid her hand of that curse. After that, there was a scream. The girl did not understand what was going on. She closed her eyes for a few minutes, but it seemed to her that she finally managed to get rid of this damned skeleton, because her hand no longer felt any obstacles and did not feel the teeth of the skull, which only recently held her and did not let her leave this place. The girl woke up lying on the floor. There was no skull on her hand, but she felt very bad, like after a blow to the head. She tried to regain consciousness and remember what happened to her and how she was here. And little by little, memories began to come to her head. In front of the girl's face suddenly appeared the same skull, the skull that she successfully shook off her hand. But it seems that the skull did not go anywhere and did not break. It appeared right in front of the girl's face, and it seems that it was going to say something to her. Skull asked the girl, "So? Are you surprised? You're so surprised that you can't even say a word." Ha ha ha! Hovering right in front of the girl's face, hoping to scare her. The girl took the skull in her hands and mouthed, "Oh, are you okay? I was scared and I didn't realize I had done it." The skull told her I was fine. "How about you?" "Luckily, I'm already dead anyway." Between the skull and the girl, suddenly there was some kind of friendship and they asked each other how they felt after the fall. The girl replied that she was lucky that there was a mat on the floor. It seems that she was able to stay unharmed because the mat was very soft and cushioned her fall. Right. Where did the boy go? The girl suddenly remembered that the boy was the vampire who had brought her here, and she couldn't find him. The skull answered the girl that she seemed to have crushed him when she fell. But then suddenly, a boy appeared from around the corner. He was alive and well and screamed, "God! Why does something always happen to you? We both almost died right now." The boy was clearly unhappy about what had just happened, because it had really put their lives in danger. But the girl was not satisfied with such a claim in her direction. She answered the boy, "This time it is not only my fault. It was you who gave the wrong answer and told me to pull my hand out." The girl justified that she had only followed the boy's advice and had not thought of anything herself, and it was his fault that it had happened, and he was wrong to blame her for it. The boy harshly shouted back, "How could you really listen to me? You idiot! Did you think you had the strength?" The girl couldn't believe her ears. She couldn't believe that the boy dared to call her names, so she asked again, "Am I an idiot?" The skull looked at all this from the side and said, "But you guys, stop fighting, you two lovebirds." He wanted to try to reconcile the boys so that they would not fight, but in response they only shouted in unison, "We are not lovebirds." But the skull nonchalantly continued to say, "Are you going to pretend? I saw the boy cover the girl with his body so she wouldn't fall." The queen couldn't believe her ears. She asked again, "Who? Was it him?" She couldn't believe that the boy really took care of her and was worried about her. On the boy didn't like that the skull decided to tell such small details. The boy was very unhappy about it and shouted out, "Hey, skull, do you want me to grind you into powder?" With these words, the boy picked up the skull from the floor and threatened him that he would destroy him if he talked too much. In response, the skull said he was just kidding. The girl stood thinking about the skull's words. She thought about what had happened. Maybe he really is a good vampire. After all, this boy saved me. The girl couldn't understand how she should feel about this vampire, because before she thought he was evil and she wasn't going to trust him. But now everything had changed. After he had saved her from death, the girl decided to ask the boy if it was true, if he really saved her. In view of this, she would never have thought about it. But now she wanted to know if the skull had made it up, or if it was really true. The boy didn't expect the skull to talk about it, so he answered coldly to the girl, "Yes, I saved you, so what's the big deal? I did it because you're the only—" The boy didn't finish that sentence. "You're the only one I can use as a source of sustenance in an emergency." The boy disappointed the girl, because she had already started fantasizing about what the boy would say now, because he had just said that she was the only one. And this really shocked the girl because she had expected some romantic statements, but not this one. The boy decided not to talk on this topic anymore, so after he finished, his phrase said that if the girl understood everything, then they should go on. They came for the key here. But the girl was disappointed to remember his phrase and thought that he needed her blood after all. The boy and the girl walked further down the corridor and went deeper into the other rooms of the warehouse. In the next room, they saw a large portrait of some vampire. The girl exclaimed, "Later! Who is that?" The vampire really looked threatening, and it was unclear what this picture was doing in the warehouse. But the boy said that the girl was too noisy, and asked her not to ask questions, as she was disturbing him looking for the key. The girl replied that she was just scared, and that there was nothing wrong with experiencing such an unusual situation. The boy went to the big staircase, and said that the girl was only in the way, so let her stay here and wait for him. He decided to go and look for the key himself, as the girl could not help him there and would distract him. But the girl was very afraid to stay here alone, because around her only darkness and traps. She is not a vampire, and does not know what can be in the vampire lair, so she urgently thought of a plan not to be alone. But then suddenly the skull that the girl was carrying from the previous room spoke. The skull said, "Hey, don't you want to put him in his place?" The girl didn't understand what the skull was saying, so she asked him again, "What do you mean?" Skull says, "But he keeps pointing you out. Maybe it's time to switch." The girl didn't understand what Skull was talking about and what he wanted from her, so she asked him again, "What can I do?" Skull said that he couldn't tell the girl for nothing, for that she should promise him in return that she would let him live with the girl in the same house. The girl couldn't believe her ears. She asked again, "What?" She could not believe that the skull, which recently only threatened her life, offers her to live with her. Skull foresaw this reaction of the girl, so he answered, "All this? Because if the director finds out that I didn't stop you, he can use me in his laboratory as a mannequin head." Skull realized that after he had let those students go further into the warehouse, he would be severely punished by the principal, and so the only way for him to escape was for the girl to take him into her house. But the girl remembered that she didn't live alone, that she lived with her parents, and how her parents would react to all this. The girl thought about what would happen when she brought the skull home, and when her parents saw it. But suddenly the girl remembered what kind of parents she had, and imagined the situation when she brings this skull to her house. She imagined what phrases her parents would say. "God, this skeleton can talk. It's the perfect companion for my hiking trips. Dad and Mom will definitely be happy about this addition to the family." So the girl decided that no one will be against it, and there will be no problems, because her parents will be happy about it. So after thinking over the skeleton's proposal, she answered that he could stay with her for a while, because she didn't have the most ordinary parents. The skeleton was very happy about it, and thanked the girl. The girl had kept her end of the bargain, so she asked the skull what could the boy's weakness be, and what she should do. The skull replied, "He came for the key, right? Then we can use that to our advantage. The skull knows where this key is kept, so I suggest the girl find the key before the boy and defeat him." The skull decided to show the girl, "Where is what the boy came here for?" He said to the girl, "See something funny about a portrait of a vampire. At least look me in the eye and see what happens." Turns out the skull knows all the secrets of this place, so he can easily show the girl the right way. The girl approached the portrait and pressed the red eyes of the vampire on the portrait with 2 fingers. After that, some strange sounds started to emit, and everything went dark. The portrait disappeared, and a passage to some other dark place appeared in its place. The girl stood in front of a wall that was split in half and sliding like a huge passageway to some secret place. The girl could not believe in such magic, because before she had only read about it in books. It seemed to be a very ancient vampire castle with many secrets and secret passages. This was one of the secret passages where the key would be kept. The girl was very surprised by what was happening. She did not expect that the advice of the skull will be real and really open the passage. She realized that in the castle of the vampire can be found a lot of interesting things. So amazed, stood and looked at the open doors. The girl decided to ask the skull if this is really a real vampire castle. The skull told her that of course it is, because who else could build such a gloomy castle? But he suggested to the girl to stop talking and to find the key, because the director was using it now and could notice that it was missing. The girl slowly entered the room, which was furnished with various cardboard boxes. She looked around and peered fearfully into every corner, afraid that some monster or demon would appear there. For in a vampire's castle, anything can happen. The girl walked over to one of the boxes and the skull uttered, "This is it! The key must be in this box!" The girl already trusted the skull and did not doubt his words, because he led her into this scary room, so he knows exactly what to look for and where it is located. The girl slowly approached the box and began to open it. She was very nervous, and her hands were shaking. As soon as she began to open the top of the box, from there appeared a bright glow as if there was something very bright. But in fact, inside the girl was waiting for a surprise. The girl expected to see inside the key that the boy wants so badly to find. She already anticipated how she appears in front of him with this key in his hands, and he envies her. But she was waiting for unpleasant news. The box was empty, and there was absolutely nothing in it. The girl shouted, "There is nothing!" Skull confused and said, "Is it really all the director? He bought a bunch of inventory and forgot what was in this box. Skull thinks the key must be shedding in some of the other boxes that are here." But suddenly there was another problem. From behind the girl heard the voice of a boy who called her by name and asked where she does. She realized that they have a rival, so the girl has to have time to search all the boxes to find the coveted key. The girl began to open each of the boxes at an unimaginable speed. She checked all the nearby boxes and those that were away from the room. Some of the boxes were empty, some were filled with school supplies, some had textbooks and other trash, but nowhere had the key until one moment. When she once again opened a new box, she saw a bright golden glow, and on something white lay a key. It glowed and made a nice sound, as if music was playing. But the girl was happy that she was able to find the key faster than the boy, and now she can be proud of it. But in this box was something else, half of the key. White fur, which initially the girl did not pay attention to, turned out to be a dog, a cute dog, a Pomeranian Spitz. The girl did not expect to see him here, so she was extremely surprised, because she adores cute animals and cannot resist them. The girl said, "God, what a cute dog, he must be lost." The girl wanted to pick him up and pet him, because she loves cute dogs. But the skull said that it was dangerous and warned the girl to get away from this dog, because it could be an unusual animal. But the girl didn't believe the skull. She said, "What could be the danger of this little guy? It's the most harmless dog. It can't do any harm." Skull tried to warn the girl many times. He said that this is an unusual dog. It is not just lying under the key. It must be the creature that guards him. And after a few minutes, the girl saw it for herself. The small and cute Pomeranian Spitz had just turned into a huge dog that was getting bigger by the second. This dog was very unhappy that someone had dared to steal the key he was guarding. Apparently, it was a disguise to distract attention, and this disguise worked perfectly. Now a huge dog appeared in front of the girl, eager to punish those who dared to disturb his peace. And so, what we have in the end, the girl accidentally gets to the school of vampires. She gets there by mistake, simply because during the enrollment there was a mistake and the first letter of the schools was mixed up. The girl is the only human in the school. All the others are vampires, and no one knows that there is a human among them, so the girl is forced to hide her true origin. One day another boy finds out about her true origin. He accidentally overhears the girl's hysterics in the toilet. Now the boy knows all her secrets and can ruin her life at school. And the girl needs to stay in school for a year to transfer back to a human institution. And in return for his silence, the boy offers the girl to fulfill his request. The girl agrees because she really has no choice, because if she does not agree, her life will be ruined, and she will have to suffer for a year in the walls of this school, and she will be in great danger if all the surrounding vampires find out that she is a human. So the girl agrees and follows the boy, who asks her to help in a mysterious case. The boy asks her to go with him to a warehouse and find there a key, which he wants to get for a long time. The girl agrees, but she did not expect that this warehouse is actually a vampire's castle, which hides many secrets and mysteries.